Good evening. Welcome to KFAN Wild Weekly. I am Brandon Mileski from the Fan. Kevin Falness from the Wild Radio Network joins me here for the next half hour talking Wild hockey. And Kevin, we get to talk some playoff hockey. Got a little bit in doubt there at towards the end of the regular season, but it's nice that we're going to continue to talk Wild hockey and hopefully maybe advance a little bit further this time.
Yeah, it won't be easy, but we knew it wasn't going to be easy regardless of who they ended up against. But, I mean, just a ridiculous end to the season. They needed every point they got. They ended up winning 4 of 5 down the stretch. All four of those wins were in overtime, including the other night against the Anaheim Ducks. And the fact that they got it past regulation was almost a marvel in and of itself. They're 20.1 seconds away from going away with nothing. And if they do that, fate is out of their control. They got to rely on the Calgary Flames to fall flat, which they didn't do that night. They ended up rallying to win in the shootout. And, at that point, you're in a real big panic. But Jules Eriksson at the back post bats it in. They end up winning in overtime. You get all the drama with Marc-Andre Fleury. Just a fantastic end to the regular season.
It was just amazing how quickly that changed in that game, Kevin, right? Like the swing of emotions from thinking – we potentially don't have the playoffs in our own destiny anymore. And probably potentially the lowest of low of the season and borderline maybe in franchise history and 5 minutes later, you've clinched a playoff spot on a phenomenal play from Zuccarello to Boldy over to Eriksson Ek. And then Marc-Andre Fleury's warming up. He's being thrown out there in a situation where immediately it's a 4-on-3 power play that he's got to kill off. He's vintage Marc-Andre Fleury with the saves he was making out there, and then to get the overtime win. I mean, it went from lowest of low to highest of high in a stretch of 5 minutes.
Yeah, and it was just such a remarkable night in St. Paul, and to think that Philip Gustafson was the brainchild of going to John Hines and saying, "Hey, how about giving the future Hall of Famer another crack here? You've got the playoffs locked up," and they throw him out there, and it was pretty cool to see him go out there. And not only, like you mentioned, I mean, it wasn't like it was just some run-of-the-mill overtime. He goes out there, and he's vintage Marc-Andre Fleury. He's poke checking. He's 2-pad stacking. He's kissing his post. He had to help kill off a power play. I mean, he made 5 saves in that shot. I mean, he earned the overtime victory, and
he came in
it
cold.
Was remarkable.
And he came in cold.
Ice cold. 100. Yeah. No way was he expecting that, So they throw him out there, and I mean, it's just what a perfect way to end a Hall of Fame career. I don't know what's going to happen in the postseason, but his final game in the regular season, so much. I know he got the win against the San Jose Sharks, but this was the note to go out on.
Yeah, and even the win against the Sharks, right? He gave up 7 goals. It's not the best way for a goalie to go out on. And that, you're right. I mean, that might be the last we ever see of Marc-Andre Fleury, right? We don't know how the playoffs.
It could be.
Right. I mean, they might be. I would assume Gustafson's going to get the net the vast majority of the time. The only reason Fleury would get in at any point is either an injury to Gus or poor play from Gustafson. And even then, it would probably have to be really, really poor play. Obviously, the further you advance, the more likely there's a situation in which you might have a goaltender change at some point. Hopefully, they're not one and done like they have been over the last decade or so. But man. And then Anaheim sticking out after to shake his hand, and you see the locker room speeches from Foligno and even Marc-Andre Fleury. I mean, Foligno's, you don't think of Foligno as a guy who's going to be, tearing up in a locker room, right? Like the manliest of all men on the team. And he's getting emotional with a great speech. It was just an overall great night. And like I said, that changed in 5 minutes.
Think where this team was when they brought Marc-Andre Fleury here. You think that, it's kind of like a favor from an old friend. Bill Guerin knows Marc-Andre Fleury. All right, come here. Here's a token. Let's see where this goes. And you think, I mean, he's closing in on 40 years old. What could he have left in the tank? I mean, what an awesome bring this was to Minnesota. And everybody knew about Marc-Andre Fleury, the player. I mean, his history, everything that he's accomplished speaks for itself. But it's the guy behind the mask that these guys tear up about, that, people are throwing accolades and literal bouquets of flowers on the ice. He's such an easy guy to root for. And I think we should all be very thankful we have had the opportunity to see the end of this Hall of Fame career. I can only imagine what he was like as an 18-year-old kid when he was drafted first overall back in 2003. But the man that he's become, the father and the husband and all that good stuff, I mean, there's not enough accolades to throw at this guy and for all he's done.
Well, I mean, when you see Anaheim's players out there shaking his hand after, we saw Ovechkin and the Capitals doing it. Every building he's gone to, they're giving him standing ovations, giving him tributes, right? I mean, you don't just see that from players that are not on your own team that often. So he is literally
root for.
Unlike you and me, he's liked by everybody,
especially me.
Well, let's move away from our Marc-Andre Fleury and let's actually talk about the team, because now we know who our first round opponent is going to be. They're in the playoffs. We know they're going to be taking on the Vegas Golden Knights. They played them a couple years ago in the playoffs. And Kevin, when I'm analyzing this Vegas team, I don't really see a weakness, right? There's always, it seems like every team you can try to poke a hole in their team. Like anytime we've ever had to face the Colorado Avalanche, it's said, well, are they going to get the goaltending, right? And you look at Vegas up and down this lineup, up the middle, they're very strong with Jack Eichel and Hurdle, and the goaltending's been great all season long for them. Defensively, they're good. Offensively, they can score on multiple lines. Their power play is number 2 in the National Hockey League. I mean, it's hard to poke a hole in this team.
No, and that's the scary part. Again, I think it goes without saying, no matter who you were going to line up against in the Western Conference, it's not going to be an easy road. It wouldn't be any easier to break down the Winnipeg Jets. The Dallas Stars are certainly one of the best teams in hockey. So too are the Colorado Avalanche, and that's not even to mention the LA Kings and then the Edmonton Oilers, who may be struggling. But when they're healthy, when they've got their game going, they still got McDavid and Draisaitl. So it's going to be the same thing with the Vegas Golden Knights. Eichel down the middle. You've got a blue line led by Pietrangelo, Hanifin, Shea Theodore, and then a guy who's got Stanley Cup credentials between the pipes and Aiden Hill. Top to bottom, they're rock solid. And by the way, they play at T-Mobile Arena where they rarely lose. The Wild know that firsthand from 2021. It's not going to be an easy series.
I feel like the Wild have historically played well there, though, I believe. Right?
I don't know what their record is there. I know that they're 0-5 in their last 5 meetings overall against the Golden Knights. So whatever.
Maybe I'm thinking a couple years back.
There. Yeah, it's they've lost 5 of their last 6 at T-Mobile Arena, 5 straight at XL Energy Center against the Golden Knights. But regardless, I think a few things that the Wild have going for them is they're healthy and they've been getting good goaltending, and those are things that you need to have to survive in the Stanley Cup playoffs. The Wild have those 2 things going for them.
Well, we've seen lots of Wild playoff appearances in recent years where special teams has been an issue, and it's hard not to imagine that's going to come up big in this series as well, right? Like I just said, Vegas has the second-ranked power play in the league. The Wild's penalty kill is towards the bottom, though. I don't have the stats in front of me of how they've done in the last month or so, Kevin, but I do feel like they've turned a corner on the PK. In that regard. Freddie Gaudreau's been out there first quite a bit and winning faceoffs, and they're clearing the puck. And you've got Foligno and Eriksson Ek back now. Apparently, all your defensemen are healthy. They all played the other night against Anaheim. That's going to be a key is the penalty kill. We saw the struggles against Dallas 2 years ago in the playoffs with the PK, and the Wild's power play, which did not look as good towards the very end of the season, is going to have to come up big as well.
Well, I mean, that's going to be another key. They have to play discipline, because if you give them too many chances with a man advantage, you're going to be sunk. Because first of all, they're prolific. And like you said, the Wild PK has been leaky for the majority of the season. It has trended upwards here lately. And especially, again, we talk about the fact that this team's healthy. They're as healthy as they've been since November. November 11th, I think, is the last time they had the entire varsity lineup at their disposal. That's where they are heading into the playoffs, and that's where they are as they get ready for game number 1. But still, you've got to play with discipline. You can't give them continual runs on the man advantage, because you'll be dead before you know it.
Let's talk about, we saw Kirill Kaprizov and Joel Eriksson Ek return towards the end of the year. They both came back in that San Jose game. You and I talked about it. Eriksson Ek had the 4 goals. Kaprizov had the 2 goals, including the game winner in overtime. Since that moment, because my concern was, Kaprizov's always been a little bit of a slow starter. When he came back from injury for 3 games in the middle of the year, he didn't look great. Now, he was probably still hurt at that point. I feel like he is still not knocked off, him specifically, Kaprizov has not knocked off the rust completely here. And I don't know if it's, your conditioning is probably a little bit off. Maybe you're not strength-wise where you need to be just because you haven't been playing as much. After that San Jose game, I felt like we haven't seen the same Kaprizov the last 3 games. And obviously going into a series against Vegas, you're going to need Kaprizov to be Kaprizov.
Well, I'll tell you, I feel like this has come to fruition the way Bill Guerin was foreseeing it, in the fact that he didn't use the LTIR. Imagine if you were throwing Kaprizov in right in game 1 and he didn't have this brief 3-4 game run-up. I think it's been 4 games that he got at the end of the regular season. That's why they didn't use that LTIR. I think that's why it's good that you have this chance to knock off the rust. Maybe they're not fully there, but thank God they had what they have instead of just throwing them into the deep end in game 1, where you don't have an opportunity to get well in games that aren't quite as important. Those games ended up meaning a whole hell of a lot, but now you're into the where the bullets are flying for real in the Stanley Cup playoffs. They had that run up, and hopefully this time has worked to his advantage. I agree with you. He looks so good against the San Jose Sharks, and you saw that 5-man power play led by Kaprizov and Jules Eriksson. It's been a little sketchy since. I still think Eriksson looks fantastic. I think he looks like the Eriksson of old, getting in front of the net and creating problems. But want to continue to see that develop, and hopefully it just continues to get better as we head into game 1.
The Wild last week signed Denver defenseman Zeev Boyum, who they drafted in the first round of last year's draft at number 12 overall. And I could tell from social media before that Anaheim game, Kevin, there were lots of people upset that Boyum was not going to play in that season finale. I had no problem. I want to see Zeev Boyum as much as anybody, but in a must-win situation, you have no idea how he's going to be able to adapt in the NHL, how he's going to have chemistry with his teammates, that kind of stuff. So 1, did you have an issue with him not playing? And 2, do you think we're going to see him in this series?
We butted heads, Micheletti and I, on Beyond the Pond. He said he would be in game 1 with the minute he was available, and he'll start the playoffs on that blue line. I said I didn't think so. If they're completely healthy, they know what they got in these 7 guys. Zeev Boyum's going to have his time. I don't know if it's now unless there's an injury. You got Spurgeon back, you got Middleton back. I think they made the right choice. I, too, would love to see Zeev Boyum. Those storylines write themselves, especially for a guy who's got to talk about stuff going into game number 82. It's too bad. The Wild, if things break differently, if Zeev Boyum doesn't advance to the Frozen Four, he's in the Wild lineup. If the Wild sew things up before game 82, he's in the Wild lineup. You get an opportunity to see him. Marc-Andre Fleury probably starts at least game number 82 in front of the home crowd to wrap up the regular season. Things didn't break that way. These are the cards that were played, and that's the way they had to go. I totally get why Zeev Boyum wasn't in the lineup then and might not be in the lineup in game 1. But I'll tell you this much. If they need to call upon it and go to Zeev Boyum or go to Marc-Andre Fleury, they have those bullets in the chambers if things go wrong to start this Stanley Cup playoff series.
It's everything you just mentioned. It's disappointing they weren't in a position where they could play him. And
right?
I would have loved to have gotten a chance to look at him and say, well, maybe he should be in the lineup in the playoffs. And frankly, I would still consider him for game 1. The Anaheim game, to me, I know it wasn't a must-win, but it was a must-win, right? I mean, you can't depend on other things falling your way. So you had to play that as a must-win game. And, well, the way it has played out so far, it kind of looks like it was a must-win game. So I was fine with the Wild's decision not to play him against Anaheim. Now that it's a game 1, I mean, obviously these are extremely important games, but it's not as must-win as that game was. I would maybe give him a look here in game 1 and see what you got from him. I don't know if you can throw him on your power play right out of the gate, just because he's had zero experience playing with Kaprizov and Zuccarello and Boldy in that type of situation. But even though I would not have played him against Anaheim, I probably would consider playing him game 1 against Vegas.
He's a fantastic player, phenomenal prospect. It's a hell of a leap going from college hockey to the pros. It takes a special player to do it. Is he on the level of Brock Faber and Cale Makar? Micheletti thinks so. A lot of people think so. I don't know. I haven't seen enough of him. I would love to see him in practice this week leading up into game 1, and I'll leave it up to the coaches. If they think that he's ready to pull the trigger, then God bless them, Godspeed, let's go get them. But if they wait and they want to hold off on that debut, I get it, and it'll happen. He's going to have a long career in the National Hockey League. It might not be in the next couple of weeks, but it's coming.
He's Kevin Falness. I'm Brandon Mileski. This is KFAN Wild Weekly. We'll continue to roll on. Kevin got into that Minnesota Wild locker room as we preview Wild versus Vegas Golden Knights in the playoffs. You are listening to KFAN Wild Weekly.